Fujimoto, at least to me, feels like he said here in 200 pages, more than some series or some creators are able to say over the course of their entire career. He never misses. Fujimoto never misses. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Volume 1, the anime and manga podcast, where we usually highlight and discuss new series each week. But today, we are here to talk about Fujimoto's new one-shot, Goodbye Eri. This one-shot comes to us almost 9 months after Look Back, which we also did a review and sort of reaction on, and almost a full year and a half after the final chapter of Chainsaw Man Part 1.
Time flies.
This is going to be, again, our sort of first reactions, our initial thoughts. This one-shot just dropped as of this recording a couple hours ago. This is a very meta sort of commentary on storytelling and those who tell them. It's a lot to unpack. It was a roller coaster. It was very Fujimoto-esque, and Fujimoto, at least to me, feels like he said here in 200 pages, more than some series or some creators are able to say over the course of their entire career. He never misses. Fujimoto never misses. Mehgan, how did you feel about this? And in comparison to Look Back as well, but I guess more so just your general thoughts on the series before we go through it and start talking about it a little more in detail. And this is going to be in the beginning, by the way, a little spoiler free, and then that'll be a very short section, and then we'll get into some spoiler stuff too. So if you're here and you haven't read it yet, this will be more general stuff, and then we'll get into the spoilery stuff later, so you can come back once you've already read it. But Mehgan, go off, queen.
What? Okay. I really enjoyed this. I think I might have enjoyed it more than Look Back. They're both great in different ways, but I feel like Fujimoto in like those short 9 months, he was always good at storytelling, but I feel like he is stepping up every time he releases something. It makes me super excited for what he has to offer in like Chainsaw Man Part 2 or any other works that he does, because it is phenomenal, the dialogue. Again, like we read Fire Punch, we read Chainsaw Man, it feels like these are actual people talking, not anime or manga characters.
Fireman. Actually, if you put Chainsaw Man and Fire Punch together, you get Fireman.
He's working on it. That's his next one. But it all felt like supernatural, and overall, like the composition of the panels and the way it was drawn, like it is just a step up every time for Fujimoto for me. Like I know he has substantial, like you can't cap his what's the word,
his creativity.
You can't do it. So every time he like releases something that like ups the other one, it's like I'm not surprised.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I 100% agree. I think the art shines here. Every time he releases something, the art does get better and better and better. And also I find myself just enjoying these stories more and more too. It's hard to compare Look Back and Goodbye Eri, but I do think that my experience, reading this one shot was a little more enjoyable. It's very open-ended. It's very meta. It's very a story within a story within a story. And there's a lot of ambiguity, a lot of questions. I think it overall does really speak to the creative process and the process of storytelling. And I'll say something that maybe a lot of people might consider to be a little controversial, but in terms of Chainsaw Man, in terms of everything Fujimoto has ever wrote, I have been absolutely in love with. I know people are a little on the fence about Fire Punch, but I loved Fire Punch, and Goodbye Eri left me with a feeling at the end of it similar to the ending of Fire Punch.
Yeah, because it's just so many twists and turns, and it's like what is real and what's not. And he's just able to encapsulate that feeling like so perfectly with his work.
And in terms of like Fire Punch too, really quickly, there's a character Togata in Fire Punch that does have a very similar way of viewing the world that Yuta does, which is through this lens of like movies, right?
Yeah.
And that character kind of did what Yuta is seeming to have done to all the people in his life, which is to make a movie about them. And there's no hiding Fujimoto's love for film. It's on full display here, even in the paneling of the manga, which this is a guy who continues to transcend the medium and show what's really possible through manga.
Someone needs to animate this like ASAP.
Absolutely.
It felt like I was watching something animated. It felt so genuinely like a home film, like a project someone's working on, like all of the dialogue is said out loud, so it's just easier to like feel like you're just watching someone record something, especially in the beginning too. I was expecting it to go like more in and out than it did, but it was pretty much for the most part all done on that like kind of camera type
yeah, and that's such just a a creative way to show that through even the art style and showing that it is this sort of like blurry art that looks like it's shown through a camera lens. I don't know. I loved it. But, I also wanted to say my controversial statement is I'm a huge fan of Chainsaw Man and a huge fan of everything that Fujimoto works on and has worked on. But I'll say after reading Goodbye Eri, I'll say like, I don't care how long it takes to get Chainsaw Man Part 2. And I'll say something even crazier. I don't care if we ever get Chainsaw Man Part 2, as long as we continue to get Fujimoto. I mean,
I agree.
Fujimoto, anything. This is a man whose creative process I do not want to stunt, and do not want him to succumb to the pressures of, a loud social media audience or any audience in general. I mean, this is a man who I want to see what this, human being creates when he is truly like, completely, free from feeling these things. And, that's another thing too about, everything he's done, even in Look Back. And I think what makes this story, for me, I just did enjoy, I think, reading this a little bit more. But in Look Back, he's doing what the character Yuta in this story, likes to do, right? Which is, and I don't know how true this is of Fujimoto's personal experience, but I do think anything in the creative sort of field, you do tend to pull from reality, right? What you know best, right? You do tend to pull from personal experience and add that pinch of fantasy, like
that's
Yuta
exactly
said.
Like I think it was just such. I mean, Look Back too was a mirror to like real events that happened,
exactly.
Like with Kyoni animation, which was like confirmed. Also within himself, like working towards something, probably being told no, doing this, doing that, like so many different things, being burnt out. Like that was such a great example of that. But this story is like, it is just putting his love for what he does and what he likes to implement in his stories and just sharing it. Like, yeah, I do this and then I add this. Like, this is my formula, which is such a crazy thing. Like, to make it, like meta, super meta, and be like, this is what I do, and I'm just using it with these characters.
Yeah, and I do feel, I've kind of, done a little bit of looking online to see sort of other people's reaction to this, and
so you looked back a little bit.
I did look back a little bit, and people do seem to be saying that this is also Fujimoto's statement. He's making a statement to the Chainsaw Man fans about like, the pressures of continuing this story. And I don't know. I do think what he is saying more so than anything is just that there is like, he's just telling us what is capable and what is possible through storytelling, and that telling stories does. I mean, this is like almost, somewhat verbatim from the actual one shot itself, but the telling stories, when you tell a good story, you want it to affect people on an emotional level. You want to make them feel and get to the root of some of their problems and some of the hurdles that they have to overcome. But it wouldn't be fair if it didn't hurt the people telling the story too. It hurts them, and it is a painful experience for them as well.
I mean, he is just, again, like the dialogue in this is so impactful and so like I said, like realistic. Also, it's crazy the layers of what these characters are saying and what's revealed. I love the character reveals throughout the whole thing. We get one potentially, we could talk about it at the end, but more in the the middle, because that was amazing. Because I really had you had no idea, and it just is like that theme of like through trauma, you kind of tell a story a different way through how you want to see it versus how it really was.
Yeah, I mean, it is like, choosing how you're remembered, number one. Number two, I think it is also, like you said, like, there are so many things, there are times where, yes, it is like more, the heavy-handedness of like movies, and that, we can romanticize and, sort of make these stories seem a little more glamorous than real life. But, there are, I think, signs that point to even social media too. You know, people choosing how they are perceived, people choosing how they are shown and who they are thought to be.
And that goes back to Fire Punch too. Togata says something about, I think it was Tom Cruise or something. It's just like so funny. Like, yeah, these actors are acting, but behind the scenes, like they are not like the best people, or they're weird or whatever.
And even though like sometimes I think that life, you know, a film or a manga or a one shot or a story will never be, you know, as faithful to real life. You know, it'll never be an exact replica of life. I think it is important sometimes to over romanticize certain things so that, you know, what you're getting down to the root of is like having people feel what you felt in that moment. And maybe you have to show it a little differently. Maybe you have to be a little less genuine about it, but it's to really drive home, you know, the feeling behind the moment. And I think a lot of time, like with art and stuff, it is sort of the catharsis of it all. It is like the healing of it all, right? And it is, you know, being able to show that, like, again, with remembering not only you, how you want to be remembered, but, you know, other people as well. I mean, you look at biopics or whatever, and I look at and I think back to, you know, there was this, like, you know, brief aside, sorry, humor me. There was this, like, you know, there was this articles coming out when like Sacha Baron Cohen was supposed to play Freddie Mercury, but I think the band was heavily involved in Queen, was very heavily involved in like the production of this movie. And Sacha Baron Cohen was interested in exploring the truths of Freddie Mercury's character, real life. You know, just the struggles that he went through with a lot of fame and the addiction and all these things. In the band, you know, said, we don't want to show that. Like, we want to remember this person, how we remember him and how the world remembers him, and we want to pay respect to that. So it is just about, it's not that one is more true or less true. It is just about like how you want, what you want to show the world. And,
exactly.
and yeah, I mean, it's just so interesting. And this one shot like lends itself to so many interesting conversations, that not only with the possible theories and explanations and meanings, and that's, I think, what a good story does as well. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's everything. That's so funny. Like when you have discussions about things that Fujimoto writes, he explains it all to you on the page through a character. Like there was a point in time where I was like, you know, reading and we were being shown his first movie, and I was kind of like deciphering like, oh, why this character would like that movie, why they would think it was great, but other people wouldn't. And then he literally just says it. Oh, I liked your movie because blank, 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 blank. And I was like, you said it. I thought you... Like, it's crazy. Yeah. And he's like, oh, what I like about my story that I wrote, I'm going to tell you. And it's like...
Yeah. Well, I think
giving the insight.
No, I think it's so much more than that, though. And I can't help when I read it to think about, like, you know, these conversations that he's having with classmates, this character Yuta is having with classmates. I mean, sort of be reflective of, you know, fears or maybe things that Fujimoto has been told in the past about his type of storytelling and the things and the ways that he chooses to tell story, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, I think even me as a reader reading this stuff, you know, when the mother was being portrayed to be a certain way, going back and, you know, things being revealed didn't come as much of a shock to me as much as it made me feel a little more sane about thinking that what she was asking of him wasn't a very healthy thing to ask a son to do at all. I was like, you know, this is crazy, and this is like kind of like not okay to ask your child to do. But when it was kind of put out that way by another character, Eri, it just made a lot more sense. And it is just like the idea of, you know, it's storytelling, it's people, it's truths, it's what's more important about the truth. Is it not even important to know really what is true and not true? And I think that's what's so cool about this story too, is it might not even be important whether, you know, this piece of the story or this piece of the puzzle was real or not, because it's about how it made you feel. Yeah,
exactly. And like he's just using so many literal things, like how he, you know, through the film was able to show a different version of a character by literally cutting out the parts that he did not like or want to view himself.
Well, yeah.
Like literally cutting it, like, from memory. You can't do that to yourself. You don't, repress things. And, oh, well, they weren't actually like that. It happened like this. It's like, no, this is how it happened. You have to, like, face reality. Like, using film to do that and showing, like, glimpses of this character, how they really were, was, like, masterful.
Yeah,
it was so amazing.
And I think you did kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit too. I mean, I think that it is the same with memory, right? Because when we look back on our lives, it is look back. When we look back on our lives, I mean, it is about how we choose to remember things,
romanticize things,
but it also is because of the way that we felt and the way that we feel. And that's what drives us. And I think that's, back to that sort of catharsis and healing, is sometimes we need to tell our story our way.
Yeah.
Like, Eri is telling Yuta to tell his for a true cathartic sort of experience. And really quickly, if you haven't read Goodbye Eri, we've been, I think for the most part, pretty good at being vague about specific plot details. But if you haven't read it yet, it's absolutely phenomenal. Tatsuki Fujimoto doesn't miss. He hits again. And if you love Chainsaw Man, Fire Punch, if you like to look back, if you like anything this man has ever done, then I think it's safe to say you'll absolutely be blown away and love this. So before we get into more spoilery, topics and conversations, maybe now is a good time to stop and go read it.
It's so quick too. It feels so long, but it really is only 200 pages, and that's just like a testament to like this man. I mean, it's insane. In 9 months.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah. I mean, I went back and I read it once, and then I had to go, and it goes by very quickly, and I had to go back and sort of skim it over again, because things are sort of recontextualized by the time you get to the end. And so I do think it's going to be fun to have some sort of, theories thrown around and go back and forth, with you and with other people in the comments and, people in our Discord, and see kind of what everybody else is sort of, what everybody else sort of thinks about the ending and what it all means. But yeah, if you haven't read it, now's your warning. From this point on, we're going to get into some more spoilery, things. So, if you haven't read it, stop now and go read it. But if you have read it, then welcome to the spoiler zone.
Goodbye, Eri.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I forget. I'm flying over you.
And I have some, I have some stuff. I mean, I just think that, our community is so fantastic. And I think that even seeing people sort of put their thoughts, down, it just really, like, this is really, I think, what Fujimoto does best is he creates these amazing conversations, and he leaves you with these feelings, and he, everything about it, like just like the community aspect of it, and just getting to see how it has affected everybody else. It is why I even wanted to kind of read some of these things, because I think it adds so much more to the overall experience of this story. But this comes from a Discord member, Snake Die, who has a Fire Punch logo. And he says that, or they say, I like Fujimoto's ability to blur the line between reality and fiction. When there's dialogue, you never know if it's a part of the act or something that comes genuinely from the characters. It makes you uncertain about what you should feel, and in a way, the experience of reading, because it's more about where you draw the line than where the line is itself. And I think that's absolutely
totally. I mean, it is about like your feeling and what you remember from the story. Like for you first read, you're like, oh, this is how it is. I kind of have my own theories. Second read, it is recontextualized. Even third read, I mean, there's so many things that he plants so effortlessly and is just able to, make you question towards the end again, like, what's the movie? What's not the movie? Is this real? Was that real? Was that done in this time? It's so crazy.
Yeah, I think it was all 100% a movie, and I'll just say that right now. I do want to read one more comment really quickly.
I'll just say that right now.
From another Discord member, Vor, and they said that they don't know what to believe was real. They don't know what to believe was real and what wasn't, but that they had a lot of underlying, I think that it had a lot of underlying messages, like how people on social media only show their good side and what they want you to see about them. Meanwhile, the real them is very flawed. And I think that they also agree that it might have been a movie the whole time. which is very interesting, right? Because the story as a whole, it does have definitely multiple moments throughout where it kind of makes you question everything you were reading before. Another one of our Discord members and members of our community, Will, said the same thing. He's like, I can't believe I kept falling for it, or I fell for it, right? That, he made me feel all these things in the first couple of pages, and then it's revealed that it is all a movie that he's showing his class or whatever.
Yeah, such an awesome. The reveals Tatsuki Fujimoto is able to do is just insanity. Because it's just a testament to like whatever you put on the page, if it's done well, like the readers will believe it until it's undone. And he continues to do that consistently through the story. Yeah. So it is just from feeling to feeling, hopping. And probably that's, what he wanted you to feel, because the main character is kind of feeling that too. So it is just a testament, like, it's so amazing. I had such a blast reading this. Yeah, me too. And the main character Yuta meets Eri, who is the person who is on the cover of this one shot. Which, by the way, I pray to Pastor Lucci that this gets a physical release, 100%, because I have the Japanese version of Look Back, which it is getting an English release, and so I can only hope that this will get a physical English released copy as well. But for me, I loved everything about it, and we get more and more and more. We go deeper and deeper and deeper into this character Yuta's sort of life and the relationship that he has with his mother, and then even the relationship he has with Eri. Eri obviously being the person who tells him that he should make a second movie because she loved his first movie so much. The reason I think, first of all, it's hard to talk about, right? But I do think that this entire one shot was, in this universe, in this world, a movie. There's been a lot of theories where people have already sort of started talking about even the version of Yuta that we see at the end, the grown-up version of Yuta that we see at the end, is Yuta's father, right? Yeah, I really did enjoy everything that people were talking about, because on one hand, like, it would be crazy if it was all a movie, just because, like, knowing her knowledge of film and knowing, how he was so thorough in what he wanted to film and what he wanted to, like, portray on the screen. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he, had filmed those scenes with her, just her by herself, before she passed away. She actually did pass away or whatever. And then there's, like, if it wasn't a movie, he recorded those before she passed away. Are we talking? Am I giving too much away? We're in the spoiler zone. Okay. What are you talking about? I don't know if we're going to go beat by beat. No, we're not going to go beat by beat for this. I mean, we're just going to kind of, give our sort of thoughts. But yeah, if it wasn't a movie, he recorded those things before she passed away, before she didn't look as good as she did, because that was her whole thing. She wanted to look great. She wanted to be portrayed kind of like he portrayed his mom, because that was one of the things that she liked about the movie, is that he filmed his mom, like, so beautifully, and that, like, is good, how she's going to be remembered forever, which is, she kind of wanted that from Yuta, because she knew that she was passing away, so she wanted to get all these moments for everyone to remember, to, like, live in the movie forever like that, and how he filmed her. But if it was a movie, it's so confusing. I'm sorry. Okay, if it wasn't a movie, he did all that, and then he recorded himself when he was older, because he was consistently cutting it throughout, from college. And then even on, and then he had a family or whatever, so he recorded those, like, POV of himself when he was older, kind of like a time capsule thing. And then okay, I think here's why I think it was, clearly all a movie for the first time, in my opinion. And the second time, all of it. I think all of it was a movie. Everything. See, I think maybe the first half was a movie. I think all of it was, and I'll tell you why. And when you say half, at what point are you talking about that it wasn't a movie? Maybe when he meets Eri. That's when it stopped being a movie. Because no. For me, there's a line, and we have a screen pulled up for some reactions, just in case. And this is going to go kind of through a little bit, and you'll be able to kind of see some of the pages as we see it. But I think, and there's a line that a character said, first of all, I mean, it ends on a panel exactly like this. So this being a movie, this being the first sort of shot or panel that is revealed
lets us in on the revelation that this has all been a movie. It ends on a very similar panel, which I think then should signal to us that the whole thing has been a movie.
But I think in the last panel, he doesn't run away. He just walks away.
I mean, sure, but I mean, I still think.
Okay.
No, I mean, I'm listening to you. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I mean, I still think it was an explosion.
No, it was an explosion. He's
Oh, what'd you do? What'd you do?
I don't know what I did.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hit
Keep
the
going.
TV. It was an explosion, but he just walked away instead of running away because as a kid he was trying to run away from his mom dying. That's all I wanted to say.
No. I mean, I think
That's
that there's something definitely to that for sure. Like I said, I think that, but I do think, I think I maybe was confused because I thought you were saying that means that it wasn't a movie to you.
Oh no, I was just pointing that out.
Oh, okay. So here, this is why I think obviously what we're seeing here is still a movie because for the very first time when we meet Eri for the very first time, this is how we see her, right? This is how, now again, because of things that we are let in on about her later, this could have been calculated from her point of view, right? She could have, been there and been this way, because she knew that she was going to be on film. So maybe that's why she showed up here this way. But what definitively, in my opinion, makes this all a movie is that we are let in by another character later on who was her best friend other than Yuta, that she wore glasses all the time and that she had a retainer in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is so we never see her that way. Ever see her that way. Now again, if it is a movie, then we're seeing what Yuta has cut together, right? Which is never her that way. Which means that every time we see her, it's always from within the movie. Now, also that could have been that character who said that could have been written into the movie, but we know that Yuta likes to use real moments and with a pinch of fantasy, his words exactly, and include them, in the movie. Which is, I think, what makes his movies, have that like extra meta layer to them. So we never see her with glasses. We never see her with a retainer. I think that to me signals that anytime we see her like that we see her here, it's always in the movie. I mean, I feel like I don't even know if I'm making sense right now.
No, you are. I'm listening.
Which goes to show you that all of this that we get to see for the very first time, and again, we've talked about the paneling, how it looks amazing, and it does just look like you're watching a movie. Like this is like, it literally looks like film. Like, you're seeing a movie on film. But that means all of this, again, if it's true, if that one, and I'm basing all of this on that one line of dialogue being an honest thing that that a person said and that was just cut into this movie. Because Yuta has at least said in this that he does that, which it is hard to even say that. But everything that we see of her here, she's not wearing glasses, she doesn't have a retainer, and she's not being a bitch, which is what the girl said too. Like she can kind of be a bitch, which means that all this stuff is movie, because otherwise. It all did seem, even when I was reading it, like, okay, it all did seem like it kind of did seem like something that would happen in a movie, that you're going to an abandoned building that you just happen to have set up, this projector set up in for you to watch movies, and you just so happen to be on this roof at the moment that this guy is going to unalive himself, So I don't think we get to see the truth of anything, which is to say that in any movie, we never get to see the truth of any. We go back to the Bohemian Rhapsody example. We never get to see the truth.
Well, I mean, even in documentaries, they do cut it up sometimes too to, make it seem like this is the story. But even when you are recording real people, you can, show the audience whatever you want to show them.
Yeah. Yeah, and the same thing with his dad. I mean, this is where the lines are blurred even more, and I think purposely the lines are blurred to confuse us even more, because we do have this line in this, this sort of sequence where they're talking to the dad. We believe this to be, at the time, a real interaction, and then as it progresses, we're cued in on, and this is so cool too. The dad, his sort of the two panels of his eyes closed, and then the third one where his like eyes open like that, and he, you could tell immediately he's like, "Did I do okay? Is that good?" But I think here we're supposed to believe that it cuts back to a genuine, real moment. But the thing is, I don't think anything we see in any of these pages is a genuine moment. I think it's to further confuse you, the audience, and it worked, and it confused me for sure. All of this stuff too.
It kind of reminds me of Rey from Neon Genesis Evangelion. I think it might just be the uniform too, but even her haircut. If you know, you know, but just a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why, again, everything here, even this stuff here. Okay, now let's get into a little bit of this stuff here. If everything is a movie, then I mean, how do we feel about this portrayal of Yuta's mother? Because if
see, that's why I don't think everything's a movie.
Because the idea
I think there are some things that are fake, but I think that this is like his life, unfortunately. I mean, it could all be a movie, but I think that's why Fujimoto is kind of pushing that like realism with a pinch of fantasy. At the end, we get that pinch of fantasy that, Fujimoto does so well and like he is able to do and still make it realistic. I feel like it might be so crazy that it is true.
Yeah. That Fujimoto with that pinch of fantasy, I do think that this is, again, really sort of what he also said is that, every story, and I think this is maybe what even Eri said, it comes from you write sort of what you know. And I think, again, I don't know. The more I'm talking about it, I felt when we sat down to record, I was so confident. And then the more we get into it, the more I'm like, I don't know. But I do feel like these are kernels of truth that are of Yuta's truth that are sprinkled throughout even this sequence here. Because there was but I think this is also to show and to speak to the bigger thing that you never know what's real and what's not, and you never know how someone really is based on just like what you've seen because of how that was cut together. Things can be cut together to show.
I mean, Fujimoto really does love his mommy ponytail girls, huh?
Who is a mommy ponytail girl?
Makima.
Eri didn't have a ponytail.
No, but his mom does. I said mommy. Mommy type.
Oh, right. Because I was confused.
She looks a lot like Makima in the first couple panels. I was like, what?
The mom?
Yeah.
I thought Eri looked more like Makima.
No way. Like, go back to the beginning. Oh, I guess you could have stayed there because she is.
I mean, like.
Her eyes
Eri,
for sure.
This is Eri. She looks so much like Makima.
I think it's the hair.
That makes the mom look like Makima to you? I mean, this is Eri again here. Eri.
No, go back. Keep going. Yeah, they show the mom again right here. Like right there, looks like Makima. I mean, it's the ponytail for sure.
Yeah, I think.
Look at that.
Mean, it's the bangs and it's the hair. Yeah, and the little two strands that come down right there. I think it's just his style too. His style. He has just like he has a way of drawing. Like look at the eyes. Like a lot of his characters, do kind of tend to look similar. Obviously, I mean that's just part of having an art style, but I love the way he draws. Look at these eyes. You know what I mean? But yeah, and I don't know. I mean, this is again her being shown like she wants to be shown, right? Not who she really is. Even this entire conversation that they're having here, and then again, it's revealed that this whole thing that we've been seeing is a movie. Okay, so now,
well, it's because they were making a movie,
But now it's revealed that this panel shows that everything that we've been reading was what they were watching.
Well, there are moments that we do see, the stills of her doing things and them even saying scenes that they shot that we didn't see. Oh, did you shoot the kissing scene? Yeah, I already got it. Should we do this? Should we do that? Like things that we did not see at all. So it's like maybe they were shown that up until when they started in the beach scene, they were shown and everything was shown. And that was always the plan, that this vampire would die of a terminal illness.
I think those were all parts of the movie. I think that, but again, I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah,
is
we
it's-
don't know.
It's so open ended, and this
Aw.
is a callback too to you know, when they had that conversation on the couch earlier, and you said
Mhm.
something along the lines of like, well, you always do a peace sign, a low key peace sign when a character scores like a big win or something like
I'm
that.
just gonna say that's canon for Fujimoto. I feel like he does that every time he's watching movies. Just like,
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. So this is the moment with the character that we're having here. I filmed. See right here, she says, "Didn't Eri wear glasses?" And he says, "I filmed her without them at her request. What about her dental retainer? That also came off for shots at her request." So that means everything up until that point that we've seen of her without those things was edited, cut together, purposeful, showed to us the way it was shown, purposefully, calculated. And then, you know, she was over idealized. Wasn't she actually a pretty big bitch? And that's the thing too. We never saw Eri be a bitch ever. I don't think so. Unless, you know, you were reading it and you're like, this girl's kind of a bitch.
no way.
So this is very telling as well too. And then leading
But
us.
I do like. I mean, that's the thing. Like, go back.
Mhm.
That's the thing that plays into everything with the mom and everything. Like the dad even said, like, I wanted you to film her that way because I can remember her that way too. So she's saying, you know, wasn't she a bitch? And like that, he says, yeah, that's why we were, you know, you and I were her only friends. It's like some people are just not likable to other people, and like there's people that will stick around for them. And she even says, like, thank you for showing her like that. So it is just like,
I think it's a movie, but I get. But I get what you're saying. No, I get that.
I just want to believe that she was actually a vampire. Okay, that's all I want to believe. I do like her explanation of the 2-year, you know, skip where the brain is overstimulated.
Yeah.
That was so cool, because that would be such a wrench in like whether or not you became a vampire, because I lived so long and I have all of these memories and I can just know all the knowledge of the world, and it's like, well, if your brain resets every 2 years, you have to redo everything.
Yeah.
And that's such a cool vampire. Like I love vampires.
Yeah.
Such a cool vampire lore thing. I mean, I'm sure it's not real. It's probably just a movie, but I just want to believe
But I
that.
do think that that's what's also cool about what Fujimoto does. Like, he does just introduce these interesting new concepts and kind of, you know, gives another layer. I mean, like, I would love a vampire story told that way. You're absolutely right about that. And I do
It
think
was
that
like what's the vampire movie? Hold on, just keep talking.
there's a bunch of vampires.
No, there's a specific one in mind.
But I
want to mention.
I do think that you know, that's also the beauty of it too. I think that even us here talking about it and you saying like, I think that this wasn't a movie, or me thinking it was. I mean, I think that's the beauty of a good story, is having a freaking conversation, dude. And so many movies you can have a freaking conversation about.
It reminded me a lot of like Let the Right One In. If you know, it's a vampire movie. And it's really cool. It kind of is similar to this, where like the main character befriends like a vampire, but then we realize that he has to be like her caretaker, but then we see someone else who was her caretaker that's like much older because she doesn't age. It just kind of reminded me of that when he was able to come back and like see her again. I don't know.
I never saw that movie, but I'll take your word for it.
It's a great one.
And I love vampire movies, so I'm down to watch it. Especially if you're recommending it, I'm down to watch it. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of telling to me. Again, who knows, right? But now we're getting into kind of the third act, or what I would consider to be maybe a little bit of the third act right here. And you know, this is him talking about not being satisfied, and then cutting to his future self, his adult self, and kind of giving a similar confession. Now, I do think, personally, me, Josh, and I'm open to hearing everybody's opinions, and especially yours,
comment
Mehgan.
below if you have any different
different theories.
I feel like yeah.
I think we're still in movie territory here, but do you think we're not now? And I'm open to it. I'm listening. I'm hearing. I'm hearing it. You don't know.
It is hard to say. Yeah.
Because if we keep going here, then, you know, we get this, again, very cinematic, I feel like, ending, right? Leading up to this big reveal. All right.
And
go ahead.
a reason why it could be a movie is because, like, go back to that page.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is on one page, but it is split.
Okay.
So it could be like a split screen situation. you know?
It could be. I do think that, I mean, again, it's so hard to talk about because I mean, my brain, and I'm just being honest. It's not that I'm, discrediting anybody's thoughts or theories, but it's very obviously purposeful to have this on a full screen. And, I do think that because my brain goes like, okay, well, it could just be a split screen because this is a manga format. This is what the pages, the sizes are. So when it is printed in a physical copy, like it has to, follow these sort of, measurements or whatever. But at the same time, it is still purposeful to use those measurements to sort of tell your story, right? And to be very purposeful in the way that you show things. So it could be from a technical side, and it could also be from a story side, like that it is like, oh yeah, this is that sort of movie moment. Is it supposed to be viewed as like one big sort of shot or two separate shots? Is it purposeful using the manga formatting that there's that line between them?
Yeah, I saw someone say, oh, you could tell it's a movie because they're not ever shown on the same screen at the end. They're always shown on different screens, but I think they're shown on the same different panel. I think they're shown on the same panel like twice here. So it is like,
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, again, I still think that this is there really was a person, there really is in this world, there really is a Yuta, and there really, whose mom really did die. And there probably really is an Eri who, was all the things that person said that they were, who really did die. And I do think that this is that movie. I do think this is that movie that Yuta has made, and we're getting to read in a manga this movie. It's a movie that he made in memory of maybe more so Eri than his mom, because he does show his mom, in not the best light at a certain point. But this is like in memory of her, and this is his real story with a pinch of fantasy. And I think that's what this ending is too, that pinch of fantasy. But again, it's what Fujimoto does so well. Because here again, this is where we get the reveal that she's a vampire, which I do agree, Mehgan. I loved the way that that Fujimoto sort of like uses this like interesting sort of new device within like vampire lore. Like, what a cool thing. And the letter situation as well.
Yeah, I loved it.
But then here is this beautiful panel too, or page or a couple of pages. I get to see you every time I watch it. No matter how many times I forget you, I'll remember you again and again. Isn't that beautiful?
Well, to your point, she's watching the movie, this is playing. This wasn't supposed to be the movie yet.
Right. So elaborate on that a little bit.
So you said before that in the beginning when they first meet, this is the first time he goes to that abandoned building and starts watching those movies, right? So she would be watching the movie that he made. It wouldn't be this yet.
So, okay. I get what you're saying. But go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah.
There are layers to it. Okay, so the first layer being that this panel almost straight up confirms that everything we saw with Eri earlier was a movie. This panel here outright confirms that, because older Yuta, quote unquote, and Eri are watching the stuff that was not supposed to be movie. But I think it was, it was definitely 100% indisputably revealed to be a movie when it was shown again to the second audience.
We didn't know what was shown. Apparently this part was shown, so yes, that does confirm everything that we had watched had been a movie thus far.
Exactly.
So that being said, this could be the reality now.
No, I'm here for it.
Maybe. Who knows? It's crazy.
I do. And again, I do. What I like about our conversation, because me and Mehgan, we did not talk about this before at all. And what I like about, our conversation is that I do think that, we sort of represent two conversations that are kind of happening right now. And I love that, because this is what I think makes for interesting conversations, hearing you be the voice of like this potentially being a
vampire
movie.
Vampire
lovers. And, because both of us could be wrong. One of us could be right. And both of us could be wrong, and both of us could be right. I don't know.
Yeah, it's both. It might be both. I'm under the suspicion. I totally agree that he made a movie with this girl, who just so happened to also have been a vampire.
And whether that's what you want to believe or whether that's exactly what it is up for debate. So I still think, of course, here what we're seeing is all movie, especially here. This is that very dramatic sort of goodbye sort of like moment and leading up to everything he's been saying. Now, I think it's very important here, this last page, right? Or this last, before the last page. After that, she and I would never meet again. So this is also this is a narrator to me. This is a narrator again. This is at the end of a movie, you hear that voice coming over. Or when the text appears, like at the end of The Sandlot or whatever, Benny went on to play for the LA Dodgers or whatever. Is that his name? So after that, she and I would never meet again. You see, I finally figured out the reason I recut that film so many times. And then it cuts back to her saying it's missing a pinch of fantasy, don't you think? This being the pinch of fantasy. And then the explosion. Now, again, to kind of, I do think that, and this is what I'm starting to be able to feel like I can better articulate now, is that I do think that there might be something, and not even might, there is something to what you're saying. I was just confused about how you were saying it. Meaning that I do think there's a difference, even if this is a movie still, which I do think it is, even there is within a movie a character arc and a character growth. Him being a kid and running from the explosion versus from him being an adult and walking away from the explosion. I do still think that you're absolutely right in saying that does show, whether it's entirely fictional in this world or universe or not, that is a character, their arc and their growth, that he is more calmly accepting of these things and walking away from it.
Yeah, or confidently saying he's gonna add an explosion at the end of his movie, even though it doesn't make any sense.
You know what, Megan? That's a great point too. I mean, you're absolutely right.
Accepting that people may or may not like this thing that I'm doing, but I don't care.
Yeah.
In the beginning, he was running away from it, and everyone told him it was great, but the ending was really bad, and he was like, "Oh, damn, okay." And I can guarantee that. They're probably even Eri was like, I like the ending. She even says it specifically, so word for word. I like the ending because it symbolizes, I forgot what she said exactly. Dang it. But she does explain it so beautifully. And I was like, yes, that's hilarious. And then it happens again. It's so intentional. That feeling of I'm going to do this confidently. Because if you don't like something, and you try to run away from your critiques and stuff, you're only gonna be able to not, you're not gonna be able to move forward in your art.
Yeah, I mean, it works so well on both of those levels, right? I think, again, I really do like the idea that even because of the meta layers of this story, even if it is something that the real Yuta, who I don't believe we ever get to see, ever, and that's why I don't even believe that this is his dad. I believe that these are all actors. I believe that these are all crisis actors playing. I think these are all actors playing the role of Yuta, playing the role of Eri. I think everything we're seeing is a movie. But I do think that even the truth of Yuta walking away confidently in that explosion, I think is true in the sense of a creator also saying that there might have been something that fans didn't like, and then saying well, I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
And you're going to like it this time or also screw you. I like it.
Exactly.
And I'm the one making this shit.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's why I do think, I love that. I love that. I love this one shot. I love everything about it. I think that my excitement and just even just my passion for talking about it. I mean, obviously Look Back covered a lot of the real life tragedy of the Kyo Annie, studio situation. And that is, which is why, I mean, I guess it does, part of me does feel bad to say you like
one or the other.
Yeah. Because I mean,
they're different. They're completely different. Yeah.
But I do think that here are my closing thoughts, I guess. For me, I think everything that we saw here, I think I said it kind of in the beginning, but I think that this is a story about telling stories and those who tell them. And I think it's about getting lost in your work. I think it's about, catharsis, feelings, closure, and just remembering people how you want to remember them and remembering them through your art the way you want to remember them.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you want to get on the more technical side of things and the more theory side of things, what did we see here? I think everything we saw here, my opinion, and I'm fully ready to be wrong, but I think that what we saw, everybody in this thing we saw were actors, and we were watching a movie. I don't think maybe we did get to see the real Yuta. Maybe we didn't get to see. Maybe that was an actor. But either way, I want to say, because again, I just think it was like Yuta. We never got to see the real him. We got to see these were actors cast in this movie, and even the real life sort of things that we thought we were going to get to see was all acted. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It is just fun to talk about because of everything else that this story is, and everything else this story is saying. And ultimately, I think it is also saying to just if you're a creative, to write what you know and write based off feeling and who cares? Like, who cares if things are realistic or not? Like, I think that, this is what Fujimoto does. And I think this is what he put into Yuta. Like I said, I don't know how much of it is autobiographical, but I'll bet that there are parts of Yuta that are just so him. Especially with Chainsaw Man, because if you look at Chainsaw Man, it is a story with a lot of fantasy. But at its core, it's about fear. It's about like control. It's about, if you look at Makima, so many people have been able to, simp over her, drool over her, bark for her, whatever. But, I think it is because a lot of people maybe relate to this story because a lot of people relate to being Denji.
Yeah.
And a lot of people relate to being taken advantage of by someone and controlled by someone. I mean, there's the joke of like, it's Makima's like my ex or whatever. I mean, but I really do think if you take away all the devils and you take away all the fantasy, at its core, it's a story about, not having a lot of self-confidence, having something valuable, and other people manipulating you and taking advantage of you for that thing. And I think maybe that aspect of Chainsaw Man is personal to Fujimoto. There are aspects in Look Back that I think are personal to him. Aspects here I look are personal to him. And I think that's just how you tell a good story. But I've rambled and ranted for too long, Megan. What are some closing sort of final thoughts for you?
I ditto. I mean, you said everything I could have said. No, I really do think that there are a lot of things to unpack here. Like, obviously, what you want to remember, what's in your memory, what lives on in your brain, not only on film, but just, memories can fade, but like feelings can remain. And I feel like that's a huge theme in this story completely. I mean, I do think that the mom stuff, if it is all a movie, sure, but there are aspects where I'm like, that is such a great reveal of showing, cutting what you want to be your reality and having people around you kind of enabling that. Like, the dad was an enabler and he allowed this like behavior of this mom like to go on, and when he shouldn't have, and he just allowed it because he also like loved this person and wanted to see her in a different way than she actually was. And Eri too, I mean, like, it is to the testament of like, she didn't have her glasses, she didn't have her retainer, and it's like, well, she didn't want to be remembered like that. She had it on all the time. She didn't want to see that version of herself. She wanted to see this like pretty version of herself, this person who's always nice and not a bitch, written a certain way so that people remember her that way. And also it's like remembering being eternal, having eternal life. It's like this will like live on forever. This version of herself will live on forever. Even if she is really a vampire or not, she will remain.
Because the thing is too, maybe the meaning is, if you're someone whose story was told, or if you're someone who was on film or in a movie, then in a way you are immortal. You are an immortal being, and because you live on beyond your own life, and you can affect the lives of others hundreds of years, maybe not thousands, I mean, who knows, but hundreds of years into the future. And I think that's true too. I mean, what you were saying about everything. I mean, and what I like about both ends of the spectrum is that on both ends it holds up. On both ends, it holds up and means the same thing, or has similar themes, whether it's all a movie or not a movie or blah 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 blah. I mean, it if you're looking at the characters and accepting them for who they say they are on page, like it still works.
Yeah.
And if it all is a movie and none of it was real, then it all still works. The themes all still are there. Yeah, like I said, I'll say it again. I don't care if we ever get Chainsaw Man Part 2. Of course, I want it, but
I don't care when.
Yeah, I
take your time.
But I mean, even if Fujimoto came out and said, like, I just, there's too much pressure, I just don't want to do it, I'd be like, okay, just give us whatever you want to give us whenever you want to give it to us.
This is great.
And and I do think he is setting such an important precedent. And I said this a little bit in our Look Back episode. I think he's creating such an important precedent for creatives. We live in a time, especially like, I would never dare compare anything that we do here to anything that Fujimoto does. But I'm just speaking more to like the time in which we live with like just creators in general on any scale. This like, this desire and just this like maybe pressure and this need to constantly sort of like, create and to give people, these things that they want when they want them, and just constantly appease this fan base because of how, because of the fear of them, there being so much content and so much entertainment out there that what if they end up going over here, or what if they end up going over there, or they lose interest? Like, I need to stay relevant. I need to stay creating. And I think that for mental health, that is very damaging. And it's expecting, I think, a lot of people. And I think Fujimoto is setting such a great example to those people. And I think so many creators now can say, like, especially in the manga community, these mangaka freaking like bring themselves to cause like severe health issues because of this need, whether it's from fans, whether it's from their editors or the studio, whatever. Like, but I mean, he's just such an amazing person for saying, like, everybody's like, Chainsaw Man 2, Chainsaw Man 2, Chainsaw Man 2. And he's like, no, you can only get that from me. And I don't want to do that right now. And so, the balls, the confidence, he's
walking away from an explosion.
Yeah.
Explosive fans.
He is such a great role model. I think he is such a great artist, and I have so much respect for him and what he has done for the medium of manga. He's brought it into this, like, I think even like, and other mangaka before him, like Urasawa for sure, Miura for sure, have done it. But he's really bringing film, into sort of the manga, genre.
All of his stuff feels super cinematic when it's not super meta. In general, feels cinematic. I mean, he's just able to do that, and I think he even said it in this work too. Like, you watch movies, we're gonna watch 5 more movies so you understand what a movie is. I just think he's consumed so many different stories that he's able to tell these stories like well, and knows the characters and knows how to write them. Yeah.
He's a mastermind and a genius, a creative genius, and just an artist, an amazing artist. I know it was a little all over the place, but these are our reactions. I mean, this thing just came out as of this recording literally a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
So these are our initial thoughts, our initial reactions to this one shot. So please, I think this one shot lends itself to conversation. So please let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, comment below.
Yeah, comment below your theories, your thoughts, what it meant to you, what it means to you, what it made you feel, because it did make me feel. I think you feel so many things. I mean, Fujimoto makes you feel, and he can make you feel, which is like just an amazing thing to be able to do, and such an important thing as a creative to be able to do. So yeah, let us know your thoughts, your theories, and everything else in the comments down below. We love you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, especially if you've made it here all the way to the very end. This is a little extra bonus video that we couldn't help but record. So of course make sure to like it, and if you know somebody else who likes Fujimoto, share it.
it.
And all that good stuff. And just stay tuned this week for a lot of other cool videos. You know, we got Bleach, we got One Piece, we got you know, a lot of other some other, you know, bonus stuff coming. Best antagonist, all that stuff too. So yeah, the only thing left to do now is to, and I'm still kind of like a little shook. You know, I walked away from this feeling a little shook. The only thing left to do now is to get out of here on our outro that is always the same and never changes, which today, Mehgan, is
boom.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we're walking away from an explosion right now.
Yeah.
The ending.
Yeah, heck yeah. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time, boom! But your voice is